I'm Kapil, and today we have
Jonathan Myers
and
Matt Albrecht.
you guys are from Reactive Studios.
Yep.
And actually, well, before we get into that, so what are both of your roles in Reactive Studios?
You want to go first? Or you want me to
Sure.
Go
So I'm managing director. I kind of focus on the day-to-day operations and making sure that all of our our contracts are signed, and we pay all of our all of our actors and vendors that we work with.
I'm functioning as a creative director at this point. I come from a writing background, so a lot of that's sort of managing the writing and also directing the actors, working with the sound designer. I primarily am just in charge of content at this point, and thinking about like the product in a sort of a creative way.
Okay, cool. And this company actually has what do you call it? An interesting. What's your history?
Oh yeah. Do you want?
Sure.
So this starts with him.
Well, the last year I was working on a company called Bright Driver, and we did interactive audio games. We published 2 games. One was a trivia game, kind of like Trivial Pursuit,
Okay.
and the other was a basic casino slots game. And the intent was you could play these games on the go. So it was all audio driven, using your own prompts to answer the questions, and to say in the example of the slots game to spin the slots wheel. And for John and I met about a year ago, and since then I knew I wanted to work with John on a game. And one thing we were thinking of initially was a choose your own adventure audio game, kind of going back to the games or the books that I used to love when I was a kid growing up. And the timing just wasn't right when we first met.
Yeah, not at first, when Broad Driver was really growing strong, and I had talked to them about some ideas, but then I got snatched up by Disruptor Beam to work on the Game of Thrones Ascent game, and that kind of like swallowed up all my time as a freelancer. Suddenly I was exclusive just to that project, and but then that
in December we kind of met back up at a Boston Postmortem event, and it was just really good timing.
Yeah.
We both had time to kind of work on this project, and the rest has been history.
Yeah, and the first thing that happened was like, well, what would we do with this? And I thought, well, I kind of want to make this sort of choose your own adventure where you're a spy, where you're like James Bond, because I've been doing all this sort of IP development stuff, and I was like, well, it's a really rich sort of like genre, and so then we were like, well, what's the conceit of it? And we just kind of rolled from there, and how are we going to make it work? Yeah.
So we've been working on Reactive for the last several months.
Yeah.
A developer that was working with me at Bright Driver, he's come on board, and we have a sound designer who's come on board, Shannon Daly.
She did some sound work with Pop Cannibal for Girls Like Robots, things like that. So she's had a little bit of experience and also worked on radio serials and sound effects for that kind of stuff. So she fits right in with what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing that I was kind of blown away about is you guys have a lot of people that have gotten involved in this.
A lot. Well, and it's partially because, one thing I got out of the Game of Thrones experience and some of the other stuff is that the casual audience loves lots of characters, and they really, really relate to non-player characters. And it's interesting with audio, and we have this, fictional world that's just like a spy world. Having lots of voices and lots of characters makes a difference. And so I just started going around to like Postmortem and other places saying who wants to do some voice acting, and eventually we had a database. We have tons more people in the database than we've even been able to use yet, but we have over 25 roles in the launch content section. Some of those folks are only having a few roles. They're just playing a particular accent, like the French Steeler or something like that. That's in there for just a few lines. But and it's mostly local talent that we've worked with. There's a lot of people around here who are really, really good at this stuff. So yeah, it has ballooned. And really, we have a core group of like 4 people. Matt, me, Bruno, who's the tech guy, and then Shannon, who's sound director. But outside of that, we've also worked with a lot of other folks. We have a couple writers we've been working with. Heather Albano,
Yeah.
Choice of Games. She did the Choice of Romance, Choice of Zombies, worked on Choice of Broadside. So she's perfect for this choose your own adventure style stuff. And also Chris Dolan, has helped with the story as well. But in terms of actors, we've got at least 25 folks we've worked with over the past couple weeks. Even
Now I don't know if you want to bring this up. Don't you have someone from Super?
Oh yes,
Okay.
actually, yeah, we can talk about this, right? I mean, we're announcing this because this won't be coming out for a little while here. So by a stroke of luck, I was chatting with an actress in New York that I'm friends with, and she wanted to be involved in it, Sarah Malay, sorry, and she happened to know Logan Cunningham of Supergiant Games. If you know him, he's the guy, he's the voice of Bastion, yeah, and since we're doing a James Bond style game, we thought, well, who are we going to get for that first villain, right? And his voice, once we had a connection to him, I was like, oh, that's the perfect person. That is the exact right voice to do that. And we got in touch with him, and he was excited about the project, and we've already done the recording, and he's definitely going to be playing Neptune, who is the head of the Trident organization. And they are the first villain and villainous organization that the player will experience in that initial launch content.
Very cool.
The thing that I like about working with the voice actors is they're very helpful to each other. So Sarah and Logan are in Brooklyn, and Sarah had Logan come over and do all the voice recordings in her own studio, and coordinated for us remotely. So it's nice to see. I think how collaborative everybody's been.
Oh yeah, it's one of those kind of things where it's unique and interesting, and it's a genre that people really like and enjoy, and it's something new, and it really focuses on the voice talent as the stars, right? It's focused on the writers and the actors, which a lot of times in games, the writers and the actors and the sound people are not like the forefront. It's a lot of times it's the art and it's the gameplay, which I mean in our app gameplay is important. But it's really focusing in on that acting, and so the people are excited to kind of have that chance to shine.
Yeah.
And so everybody we talk with is really pumped about this, and hoping that it can become a unique form of entertainment that's out there on the App Store that hasn't quite really been there before.
Yeah, really. You don't see it very often, and I was really curious. I know you talked about it a little bit, but that's your mission, right? To be very audio and reactive in your games.
Yeah, definitely. We're saying that we want to make compelling audio-based experiences that are entirely audio-based experiences that are centered around dramatic scenarios. So we want to take kind of like the conversation tree. It's somewhat like the way that Walking Dead does it, somewhat like the way BioWare does it, but we want it to be entirely audio, entirely prompted, where you can just speak up with your voice and kind of move through this imaginary world. And it's all like theater of the mind, audio theater type stuff. So since that's new, we want to create that experience so that people feel like they're almost like they're walking and participating in an audiobook or something, or a radio play.
So we haven't actually come out and said it. So your game's actually called Codename Cygnus,
Yep.
is it pronounced? And more in depth, I guess, a quick overview of what the game is.
So the game starts out, and the primary conceit is that you're an agent, and you have an earpiece, and you're hearing and communicating with people at Cygnus headquarters, and they're not a government agency; they're sort of a private, top secret agency. And so you'll hear from Miss Honeyborn is one character, and Director Matthews is another character, and Alex is another character. And you'll hear them through this filter sound. So it sounds like it's coming in with some scratchiness you can hear in your ear.
That's cool.
Meanwhile, you as a character, you're presently involved in an espionage situation. So when the game actually opens, you're in a card game. Across you is Vasy Markovich Krasnov, who is this tough international card player you get the sense of. And there's this, you can choose to flirt with a woman to your left or a man to your right, and the idea is that you are listening to advice, and that's kind of the people at headquarters who all have opinions about what you're doing. They are offering advice, and sometimes they disagree with each other, and you have to make up your mind who are you going to listen to. But they're saying, do you want to do this or do that? And then through your voice, you speak up the word. I think the first choice is how many, they say, oh, you need to ask for 2 cards, so you say 2, and then You decide whether you're going to raise or you're just going to call. And that's either an impulsive choice or a conventional choice. And so you just say impulsive or conventional, and boom, that triggers the next audio file, and you're off.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so and we have action sequences that are built around these Foley sounds, like crashing glass, and so it's not just you're having conversations, but it's also action sequences.
And so it's all mission driven.
Yep.
And each new episode will have a different mission that you're working on.
Yeah. And
trying to solve.
Yeah, and we hope to, it's kind of like doing a pilot, like TV pilot. Like what we're working on right now is like this initial set of content. We're calling it launch content, and it'll be, the first little section, tiny section, the card game kind of stuff is going to be free. You get to the end, and it's like if you like this format, you think it seems pretty cool, something you're going to use, you can do an in-app purchase to download what is that pilot section, basically. You can play through that, and your choices are going to be recorded, like it records during that initial time, whether you flirt with a man or a woman. And it can remember that, and we can, present more content based on that. Like your first mark can be a man or a woman based on what you've chosen. And you get a chance to re-choose that at a different point too. But so the idea is that we're recording these choices, and you're building kind of a very light RPG character, and then we're just going to continue to add episodes as the story grows and goes further, offering more and more content. Hopefully on a weekly basis.
That's really cool. I like the idea that you're hoping for a weekly basis too, because one thing that's cool is I'm addicted to the Walking Dead games.
Oh yeah.
And so what ends up happening is, right now I'm dying because I just want a new episode
Everybody
to come
does.
out and play it. And so now you guys have not replayability, but continued playability. Well, you have replayability too, because you can make different options, but that's cool that you want to do it at a weekly thing. One thing I want to say before I forget is you were describing it now, and one thing that sounds really cool is like, I like ambiances in a game, and it seems like you guys are really attacking that very well from what you were saying.
Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say
that's
so.
The goal.
Since we started, John has stressed the importance of sound and composition, and we put the efforts in early on to get the right kind of sound files, and making sure that it's all composed together in a really nice a really nice way.
Absolutely, yeah, and from all stages, like we want the polish to be really top notch. We don't want it to sound kind of like thrown together, because a lot of times sound, when you throw voiceovers, that's one of the things is like the voiceover sparks and things like that. A lot of them don't sound that good. Maybe the voices aren't matching up. Like this person says something, and the other response is kind of like, it sounds like you just yelled at him, and this person sounded like they were being nice to you back, and it's it doesn't quite add up sometimes because of these AAA games. They're doing these really huge spreadsheets of lines, and so we basically put a lot of time into the pipeline. We bought a really nice sound file library, licensed to that's like Hollywood standards, so that we have ready to go great sound effects. We've spent a lot of time. We actually built a sound booth in my house to record the
custom made.
We went to Home Depot. Yeah, exactly. We got tons of pictures of us hauling plywood out of Home Depot, and so we are really careful about how well we record the sound, and that there's nothing else that's in the way when it comes to that. And then the scripting level, we're really careful about how we're defining the sounds and how the way that the lines are written, they're not overlapping with each other, so it'll always sound authentic, and we're making sure we have it paced properly, and and then it moves to a stage where we're kind of putting it all together, and that's where it is right now. And it's like, okay, so and so is insulting somebody, and they pull out a gun and it cocks, and there's the line, "What are you doing? Put those away." And we have in the script, it's like, "The gun cocks. What are you doing? Put those away." And then Shannon and I look at it, and we're like, it doesn't sound as authentic. The second side of that line sounds much more afraid. We've recorded it that way, so it should be, "What are you doing? Gun cock. Put that away." And we're really even getting down to the nitty gritty like that, but to really just sort of kind of orchestrate the entire sound file at every moment. So we're hoping that level of polish, which I think is very unique for a mobile game.
Yeah.
The thing we're dealing with right now is file size issues, which isn't bad actually. We're making some really good progress, and we've got great tech, and we've got a great engineer.
This
Yeah.
morning we were just saying, okay, so how big is the first
Yeah.
3 episodes?
Yeah, it was
180 megs.
Oh, that was for one episode out of 3. It's so
So
but
we gotta cut it down.
We've actually just made some breakthroughs on that today. So,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So that's going to be yeah. But we're being very meticulous about all this because we want that product, like you're saying, the atmosphere and the feeling to be great. Eventually, on down the road, we might even be able to do something that if you're choosing a character that's more charismatic than hostile, you're going to get sort of an ambient background sound.
Okay.
That's dependent on like Kickstarter type funds or investment or that sort of a thing. Like there's no way we can do that until we're at a later point.
Okay.
But that's where we'd like to go. So it sounds like you've almost got this movie soundtrack to your adventure that's based on the character that you're creating. Are you a hostile person? You'll get kind of hostile music. Right?
That's cool.
You're charismatic. You'll get a sort of a suave background sound, right? That's the the pie in the sky stuff we're thinking about. While we're like, what's the bottom line? Let's get this thing out.
Yeah.
And 2 selling points is one, you can play this game anywhere, right? While you're driving or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that's we're trying to build in the functionality so that if you want to respond using touch, you can answer using the touch screen, or if it's just audio, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah, and
So
we kind of define it. We're going to have a toggle on the playing by which it automatically has voice recognition, and the input prompts are very simple, like 1 or 2 word input prompts, and so it's very clear what you say at what moment. But if someone that's like riding the subway with earphones is not going to want to be saying charismatic, down, left, right, while they're on the subway. So you can toggle that off, go to what we would call public mode, and tap the buttons. Otherwise, like if you're alone, whether it's in the car, you can have it on your, you can hook it up through Bluetooth to your speakers on your commute and listen to the whole experience in your car and just be giving single word answers as it's sitting in a dock. Likewise, let's say you're like home washing dishes or cooking food or something and you've got a dock, you could pop into that dock, listen to it with nice speakers, and just speak it up as you're doing whatever else, right? It's funny because like a lot of times when I'm testing, I'll be on the computer on Skype doing other things, and I'll have my iPad playing, and I'll just like listen to it, wait for the prompt, say it. So I'll be like multitasking as I'm testing. Cool. It's kind of fun. And because of that, the pace accordingly we're being really careful about the type of attention we're calling for. That's why we don't have these long sentences, and we don't have like more than 2 prompt options at any one time, because it's tough to think about that and process that. We tested and saw that if you add 3 or 4 options, it's like people have to go back and re-listen to it several times or have to think too much. There will be like a repeat option, of course, if you want to go back over something, so nothing's ever lost. But we're taking a lot of care to make sure that it's really simple and easy to access and get into.
Very cool. I had one question, because I know you told me about this one time. You have an interesting background, because before, you were a playwright.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, I know you worked on a lot of other big titles, like Game of Thrones and Indiana Jones and all that, etc. But this, I was guessing, I wanted to ask you, it seems like maybe you get to use that background more. This seems
Even
like
more, yeah.
a writer's passion.
Oh yeah,
this kind of game.
Absolutely. That's exciting. That is the exciting part, and why I've like been putting so much time, and why we're really getting behind this. Is that I can kind of do what I've always wanted to do, and to me, like good, interesting, dramatic scenarios where the player is interacting with people, and that's the thing. That's where my playwriting background comes in. It's like I'm not much of a prose writer. I like lore, but I'm not into writing pages and pages of lore. And I like creating a universe, but I like creating a universe with the basic characters. So, to me, when you're maneuvering through these obstacles as secret agent, and to me also what makes Walking Dead so interesting is it's always about the characters are a confrontation. So the playwriting background comes in handy because it's always about sort of a dialogue tree, not necessarily a hub and spokes dialogue tree like a lot of times we used to get from the older RPGs, but it's more like it branches out and comes back in. So we do have a series of plot points, and it's kind of like you're on the path, and there are a few different divergent paths, not a ton, but what's fun is the atmosphere, what you see along the way, the scenery and the people and how they talk and how they behave. And so this is totally pulling all from that, and as I work with other writers, I sort of express those ideals and how we want the characters you encounter to be part of the obstacle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any other things about the game that maybe you wanted to bring up?
I don't know.
I don't know if I covered things well.
We.
I mean, we're totally excited about
Yeah.
sharing this and getting user feedback. Want to hear about how people are enjoying the characters and the game itself.
Yeah. We'll be getting in touch with the Boston indie scene soon to kind of pull in more testers, and have people playing it and checking it out and giving us feedback. We've had some luck already. Like when I went out to GDC, I had sort of a really early prototype build, and we were showing it around to people, and a lot of folks were really excited about the idea, and so it's got some early legs. We figured out that it had legs pretty early, but we've been really taking it through a lot of iteration, and I guess what's exciting right now is it's finally at that time we really get to start sharing it out, right? And so that's why it's weird, because we can't really say too much more about it. Like, I'd love to be able to talk about the story, because that's what's going to be the draw in the big picture. But we really kind of need to keep a wrap on that at the moment.
Okay. Were you gonna say?
Yeah. Just one other thing in terms of like where we think this could go is, I think if we get a good response, we can keep on building episodes for Codename Cygnus and develop the characters even more. But we could also start working on new adventures.
We can adapt whatever.
Even adapting like other authors' work.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You have a lot of experience with that with Game of Thrones.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we did. Is we just kind of took that stuff and wanted to make it into an interactive experience, and like that's going to be possible in an entirely audio-based way after we get this out there if it's successful. Yeah.
Very cool. So where will people be able to follow or find your stuff?
Well, number one, we have a website. There's not much at the moment, but that's going to change pretty quickly, and we're at reactivestudios.net.
Okay.
On Twitter, we're Reactive Games. So you can find us there. We're going to have a Facebook page as well. That's getting going. You can also, if you're specifically interested in the game, we're going to be setting up, our website for community purposes at codenamecygnus.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Codenamecygnus.com. Yes.
Very
And
cool.
it will be coming out first on iPhones.
Yes.
Okay.
But
and iPads.
And iPads, and quickly moving into Android too.
Okay. So that's all I had for
Great.
you guys. I did my clap.
Yes.
So,
Great.
Once again,
Thanks very
we
much.
have John Myers
Mhm.
and Matt
Albrecht.
Albrecht. I always
Thanks.
struggle with that one.
It's a hard last name.
So you guys are Reactive Studios. You guys have Codename Cygnus, and that's it. We'll see you next time. And BostonFIG.com.